Have you ever wondered what literary agents are looking for? How an author who had a bidding war and landed a 6-figure advance deal for his book can still feel like a failure? I wondered exactly how many books are in a standard publishing deal. I spent a day hearing from authors, editors, literary agents, production managers and publicists. I went to the Writing West Midlands conference that was held up at University of Birmingham, big up Birmingham, and I saw a collection of panels discussing topics such as author promotion, how modern publishing works, interviews with some novelists, how literary agents spot promising new authors, why it's hard to get one, and loads of insights from Mike Gale's almost 3 decades of experience as a novelist. And I got to meet some of these people and have a chat with them too, and I even got Mike Gale to sign a copy of his book Hope Street for me. So Mike Gale, Birmingham legend, 27 years as an author, 3 million plus copies of his fiction and non-fiction books sold, so the dude knows a thing or two, and he dropped this gem. You can only get things published if you've written them. Yeah, I know it's mind-blowing new info on Earth, but consider this. So many of us get stuck in our heads between researching, planning, those Pinterest boards and stress eating over made-up scenarios that never actually existed. We don't do the writing. And I'm guilty of this as well, so yeah, it's a fundamental basic bit of advice, but it is key. Also, Mike said that if he could give advice to his younger self, he wouldn't do it. He'd actually take advice from his younger self instead, which is quite interesting, but his reasoning is that younger Mike was fearless. He didn't wait for things to be perfect, he just started. Back in the day, Mike's publisher flew him out with 6 or 7 different authors to do book tours in a bunch of different cities. They even put him up in hotels. I mean, he even compared it to being a rock star or something. So what about now? Not going to happen. Authors of today, they get a 1 or 2 book deals max. The old school author development model, that's pretty much extinct at this point. There was a lot more money in publishing back then, Mike said. The financial gain in books was a real appeal pre-ebook. Many authors had publication deals on a 2-book basis, but Mike mentioned that he started seeing authors receive ones for a single book nowadays. And even back then, those 2-book deals meant that there was a lot of instability in the future as a writer. So Mike spoke about moments of worry in the past where one contract had ended, or rather been fulfilled, and then he'd be in the position of hunting down a new publisher to take on his next work. So if it was hard back then, imagine how it's going to be for these one-title authors in 2025. A name doesn't guarantee purchase power anymore. For example, you might see one author publish 2 books under Penguin Random House, and then under a different name, publish a series with Simon Schuster or HarperCollins, someone else, or possibly with one of their imprints. The brass tacks is that these companies just cannot afford to invest in developing an author's image long-term beyond the point of that published title anymore. It's a lot of investment with not a lot of guarantee, and in Mike's words, that standard 2-book deal that seems to be gone now. There seems to be no slow burn, and they're looking for that immediate return on investment now. So it's important to be developing and investing in your own image, which brings me on to the next point. Do you need an online presence? So the digital marketing panel, composed of Liza Law, Lena Norms and Sophia Sagir, they made it quite clear. Your work stands out on its own, sure, but having your platform helps you sell it. Let's break it down this way. If you have 1 million followers and 250,000 of those on a mailing list, by converting even just 1%, you'll get 2,500 pre-orders. That is a huge number. The average mailing list conversion rate hovers between 2 to 5%. So at the top end of that, the 5%, you're looking at 12,500 pre-order sales. That really puts you above the sales figures of many authors out there. And I mean lifetime sales figures, not pre-order sales figures. And given my previous point about publishers not building your image and guaranteeing sales nowadays, it's a huge advantage to have this in your pocket. Liza Law mentioned you don't need to be heavily investing financially in order to get this done. She built her first 20,000 followers with her phone and free social media accounts, and then eventually when she was ready to invest, she bought a cheap microphone from Amazon. We're talking sub £40. And Liza also mentioned something called Substack, which apparently it's more prose based content than video, but I don't know anything about that yet. I do need to look into it myself, but I want to mention it here in case you're camera shy, it might be worth a punt. Lena Norms, a YouTuber, she was also on the panel. I'll link her below. She built her 200,000 strong following just by showing the process of her writing and the behind the scenes that goes into it. And one of my favorites of hers was her recording an audiobook in 24 hours. Again, in Birmingham. This is my second shout out for Birmingham, fair play. A lot going on in Brum now. And she had a great quote too. She said, "It's okay to have a small presence online, but people who love your work will be looking for you. And to not turn up to those spaces it's quite sad." And it's true, isn't it? It sucks when you can't find any updates from your favourite authors. So even if your presence is limited, it's still a presence. Book publicist Sophia Sagir, she said it's about creating a small little community for yourself online. Finding your audience is a big thing, and it is. Find authors who you admire that do a similar thing. And she's right, if you seek out what they're doing and what they're creating, you'll identify conventions and trends and see what's working in certain spaces. Right, last thing on community, and then I'll get onto the author who crumbled from a successful sale, and the advice from a literary agent and an editor on how they look for promise in debut authors. So you right there. Poet Liz Berry from Dudley, who you can see on screen now, she nailed it. Writing can be lonely, so find your people, whether it's a Facebook group, two friends meeting at a Costa on Friday, a random poetry night at your local pub, or a community event at the brunch place down the road. Community matters for your mental health, for your accountability, for beta readers, and as a bonus, when you finally publish that work, those people will hype your work up as if it's the second coming of Tolkien, because it celebrates their success as a community. Right, how agents and editors choose what to publish. This is the juicy stuff now. Agent Amandeep Singh and Lucy Martin, a publicist at Little Brown Books Group, shared how publishing works behind the curtain, the things that authors don't get to see. For those who don't know, publishing houses often don't accept unsolicited submissions, which means a submission coming directly from you, not an agent. And you'll need to reach an editor there, who are sort of the gatekeepers, for want of a better word. In order to get your work in progress turned into something ready to hit the shelves, the way it's done is often through a literary agent. They take about a 15% cut, but they have the connections to certain editors who will take on genres or themes that your literary agent specialises in. And they may work to a specific audience demographic, or perhaps only in, for example, new adult fantasy fiction as a genre. So getting a literary agent is important for getting that publication deal, but also for speaking on your behalf, for handling those negotiations, for clearing up territory rights and regional sales, and so much more. You can go and Google the do's and don'ts, and there's 1,000 lists and 1,000 books. But yeah, always diversify your research. Don't just rely on one source of information for all decisions. Make sure you find out as much as you can before you start your pitching. Right, these are the insights that came from the two sources: Amandeep Singh, who stood in for another agent, and Lucy Martin, who is the publicist manager at Little Brown Books. Firstly, they established that it often comes down to the tastes and the markets that the literary agent represents. It can dictate what they're looking for in terms of trends, preferences, or certain genres, etc., that seem to be excelling. But it also means that some of the agents are only open to debut authors, for example. They don't want seasoned authors or indie authors, whereas others are completely the opposite. They only want to hear from authors with a pre-existing catalogue. Some, but a few, are looking to sign those authors that have had success in self-published markets, and they want to transition to a traditional publishing model. But those are few and far between, so just make sure you're being specific to them and personal with that agent when you send them stuff. Do a bit of research on them, check out what they represent, check out who they represent, read some comp titles, and if you use one of their other authors as a comp title, make sure you've read the book and it's actually similar. Imagine being handed a book and being told that it's exactly like your favourite book, but then when you start reading it, turns out nothing like it. Maybe there's one character with a similar name, or there's a similar theme, but it's nothing to do with the same genre or the same topics. That's a recipe for disappointment, and they'll just switch off because they know that you've just looked at their authors, seen what they published, and then whacked out any old crap just to try and connect. So yeah, takeaways are they're looking for something specific, and they may not be open to submissions just right now. There's always agents entering and exiting the landscape. The agent that you just queried that's not replied for 4 months, he might be planning to retire in 3 years' time, and they're not likely to want to take on new clients. They might just be in a phase of maintaining their current library. However, you may get an agent that's just started on the scene, maybe 2-3 years, and absolutely loves working with debut authors, and specifically in your genre. And just in case anyone's concerned about being stuck with a bad one, don't let the scarcity scare you. If you don't get on with them, or you feel like your representation isn't working, or they may have a conflict of interest, you can leave your agent, especially before you've sold anything. They might not have the connections that you're looking for. They might not be the agent that you want. Eventually, when you get your dream agent on board, they'll be able to shop your manuscript around to editors that they already have in their network, and they'll be able to do it justice. Kasim Ali said that as an editor, 90% of the books that he receives, they give him the same thought. Am I the right editor for this book? Can I make this book work for the readership that my company reaches? Is my publicity person going to be able to effectively push this? It's all for the benefit of the book. All this to say, it's not personal when you get rejected. It's about profits for the company, the time investment for the editor and the publicity team, and doing your writing justice. So hopefully those points give you something to work from. So how do we build from this? Research your editors, research the prints. Do they represent your genre and selling your demographic? Your literary agent will have done this, but it's good to be on good terms with your editor when you get there. Lucy Martin, publicity manager at Little Brown Books Group, she said that from a publicity perspective, making it clear who you've written for will help you when you're sending it out, when you're pitching it. And that's for literary agents, that's for editors, and that's for when you're selling the book as well. It means that they know who they're selling to, why they're selling to them, and what angle to take. Perhaps there's a theme in your book. Maybe it's, for example, body image and self-respect. Perhaps you've written it as you were inspired by your own journey in your teens. That's fantastic. It's good to get that positivity out there, and it's an angle with a clear audience and a clear focus that you can sell to. Also, when you get an editor, don't get upset when they ghost you. This is the next section that was discussed, managing your expectations. So this is the final take home from Kasim Ali again, who is an editor, but also a writer. And he talked about his experiences on both sides of the coin. As an editor, a lot of his time is taken up in meetings. These are often back and forth, just discussing things like how they can position a book, which markets to hit, which shops or awards to go to, which release windows would benefit the title, the themes, the key scenes, the jacket design, which means in your first couple of months, once you've got your editor, you'll get a lot of feedback, and then you'll get no replies for quite some time, and it's perfectly normal. Don't stress, don't worry. It's normal to get anxious about it as well, which is exactly what Kasim did, even though he knows the process. Kasim sold his book for a high price, 6 figures. It took years and years and years and endless pitching, but finally they entered a bidding war. And by the end of it, Kasim walked away with his name in pen ink drawing on a contract with a 6-figure advance. That is not typical. Even with that, and even understanding the process and the timelines involved, Kasim got nervous when his editor disappeared after the first 2 months. So his advice is to understand the timelines involved, and also get your literary agent to speak on your behalf. Make them the bad guy. They're there to support you and maybe bridge some of the connections. Many authors feel like they're the bad guy, or they feel like changes to the book are quite personal. So it's good to create some separation between yourself and others if you feel like that, and get your literary agent to do the heavy lifting if you're prone to panicking. So Kasim, he also mentioned that a lot of the publishing process, it's not in your control. You can't guarantee things. We spoke about this before, you can't guarantee sales. So recognize the fact that going into publishing, things can't be controlled fully, and that it's not a reflection on you. So in his example, in his experience, the 6-figure signing doesn't guarantee success. He spent years pitching and fighting imposter syndrome, relentlessly editing and chopping and cutting away at his book to fit the editor's changes, and beating himself up because he didn't feel like he was worth those 6 figures. That's a lot of money to pump into someone, and so maybe they thought he was a surefire success. Maybe they saw something in him that he didn't see in himself. Maybe they knew something, maybe they knew it was going to sell, except it didn't. It ended up selling just 1,000 copies in his first year, and he didn't touch the money. He felt like a fraud. At one point, from a Paris hotel, he said that he even considered returning the advance, going as far as calling his agent and seeing how he can actually get that done. And the truth is, his book had performed similarly to thousands, if not millions of books before it. He wasn't a special case. He'd just placed such a high expectation on himself and such importance on those numbers that he'd lost sight of the fact that he'd written that book out of passion, that he'd done it because he enjoyed it, that he'd been successful because he'd published that work. So the final bit of advice from Kasim, which I fully back, and I want you to take this away. Don't beat yourself up, because the industry will do that for you. Right, so let's wrap this up. First thing, write the thing. Give updates through the platforms that you're building to build your image, like I'm doing here. Even before you get to publishing, get in there early. Reach out and also reply to people that want you to join communities, and build that circle to utilize on your pitching journey. Pitch smart, start with who you're writing for and why, and get specific in your literary agent research. Don't make it boilerplate for everyone. And then when you eventually get an editor, don't get disheartened because the editor's changing bits of your book. They're trying to make it more publishable and marketable. And finally, remember your worth is tied to your achievements, not the figures. And with the journey covered, it's time to start on the first one. Write the thing, get it done. So I'll see you next week, and by then, I hope your word count's a little bit higher. Take care, creatives.